There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's a brand new week and you're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Tim Dennis has a night off. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He is dealing with an eye infection of some kind. They're giving him antibiotics. He's in a lot of pain, dealing with a lot of discomfort. He will be back with me tomorrow for True Crime Tuesday to do some dumb crimes and stupid criminals. I hope that you can join us and be a part of that. We've got a great show lined up for you tomorrow. When we do our dumb crimes and stupid criminals, we've got a lot of good stories that have been building up. But we also have a very interesting true crime story that deals, it's an old story, an interesting old story that deals with the possibilities of witchcraft and murder. So make sure you tune in for that. It's a great story. Tonight, though, joining us in replacement, which is hard to do, for Tim Dennis, we have the one and only comedian, actress, author, singer, dancer, Wheat Thins fan, animal activist, beer cheese queen of 1993. Brett Butler is here with us. Brett, welcome back to the show.
Hi, sweetie. Thank you so much. And you forgot Gentleman's Club Impresario.
Oh, well, some things I thought were just better left up for you.
Yes.
Hey,
hi, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you join us. And, I want to ask you something, Brett. I would be remiss. You're one of the few celebrities I know in the real world. And there's a lot of weirdness going on in Hollywood right now. But
you think?
Brett Butler kind of strikes me as the kind of person that had somebody tried to sexually harass her, she might have gone to jail for punching their teeth in. Was that a thing when you were coming up and making your way? Were you harassed?
Yes. And I want to say this. I want to say that I think there is an enormous difference between sexual assault and some guy grabbing your butt in an elevator, and I want women to start saying that too.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. I'm not saying any of it's excused, but I think the lines here are getting really blurry in bad places, and people need to chill. And also something that hasn't come out, and I would like to say this.
Sure.
The number of people who have made an extraordinary amount of money by accusing people of sexual harassment, and it didn't happen. It's called a drive-by for rich people.
Wow.
And people have been paying that off for a long time. And look, duplicity, heartbreak, and unfairness exist in any field where the stakes are really high. I think the people who have been victimized really have had it happen. We know who they are, and they need our support completely. I think there's a little too much dancing in the street over this. There are people's lives going down in flames.
Right.
That is heartbreaking, and in a lot of cases, the letters that they write to own up to it are stupider than almost what they did to get into trouble to start with. You just want to go, really? Is that your best shot? Is that your, one? But I can picture them just, hitting send on their letters to the New York Times or whatever, and going, I'm feeling pretty good about myself as a person, and they need somebody to vet that,
Brett, what's really bizarre to me about this whole thing, and we'll get into the supernatural news, but this is just part of our world and our culture right now, what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's heartbreaking to see some people that, I've really respected, Louis C.K. and Kevin Spacey, who was one of my all-time favorite actors, and hear these stories start to come out. And you wonder, I guess we always give a bit of leeway to some actors. I've heard he's kind of a douchebag to be around, and he's very full of himself. And I'm like, well, you know what? When you've spent a lifetime of people telling you how phenomenal you are, sometimes you start to buy into it. And
Yes.
I can almost forgive that because to be a celebrity, you're kind of a different bird altogether anyway. So I can kind of forgive
you think so. That's you know what, you're right. Like it's as it turns out, I have that celebrity humility that, oh, please stop it some more, that kind.
Right.
But I actually, and I think it took some going down in flames to do it. I actually have some real stuff. I'll tell you what's out there is that, and they'll never really write this on the front page. There are people that are just mean, hateful jerks that make everyone who's powerless in their circle's lives miserable. I know some comedians that are that way, and they, as long as they sell tickets, nobody cares. But they're vulgar and brutal, and they harass people. And just because it doesn't involve the unzipping of a pants or something, then it's technically okay,
Yeah, it shouldn't be. This is a horrible time to watch all of this unfurl, and it's not that there's a good time for this, but it's been a weird discussion to have because it shouldn't be this way. And you think back, God, they even portrayed it in that documentary TV series, that Hollywoodized documentary TV series Feud between Betty Davis and, oh God, no, I can't, Joan Crawford. Right. And you saw the kind of give and take between directors, producers, and the actresses, and what was kind of going on at that time, and you realize this has been a part of the business.
Let's not forget about B. Arthur and Betty White, damn it!
Right, but you've got that it's just weird to watch this crumble. And I know it was funny you were talking about the letters they're writing are almost as stupid. I would never want to be in that position because, as you can only imagine, Brett. It's one thing to say, yeah, I've screwed up, but to try to craft a letter that's going to say, yeah, I screwed up. But how do I not get every other person I've ever crossed swords with to come at me right now? That's got to be the toughest gig, and I was almost forgiving of Spacey on the very first story just to say, well, you know what? We've all been drunk. We've all hit on somebody we shouldn't have. And truthfully, if that was the one case and it was 30 years ago and there was no actual sexual contact, there was a drunk guy laying on top of an underage boy, but And I don't want that to sound like that's acceptable. If it happened to my son, somebody would be missing. When I think of what I was doing when I was 14, I looked 28. I know, probably guys just shaking in their boots now. And, I had better taste than to be alone with someone like Roy Moore. But, everything they're saying is like, I remember the summer I turned 14, it was, good Lord Almighty, get out of the way. My mother said, you have to stay inside. Yes, I've got daughters that are rapidly approaching that age, and I'm not happy. They're liking boys.
Yes, Shotgun Dave.
It's ugly. Well, let's get started into some, let's take us away from the realm of reality and start talking about para-reality, the strange and supernatural world around us. China, according to this article, is racing to make first contact with aliens. Now, China is racing to become a major space superpower and could be the first nation to make contact with alien life by using the world's largest radio dish, which can detect signals from the deepest depths of space. Last year, China cemented itself as a space exploration powerhouse by firing its space laboratory Tiangong-2 into low Earth orbit, becoming only the third nation after the United States and Russia to independently get people into space. The nation has also had dozens of suspected paranormal encounters, including claims of a UFO sighting over the Great Wall of China just last week. Now, the emboldened space superpower has vowed that it will be the first to make contact with alien life, pouring billions of pounds into space exploration and the world's largest radio dish to detect signals from other galaxies. Speaking about the Tiangong-2 mission, President Xi Jinping, I'm going to dislocate my uvula talking like this, said that the project would enable China to take larger and further steps in space exploration. Or really, I can say President Xi Jinping, but I can't say space exploration without stumbling. And they're making new contributions to building up China as a space power. The 500-meter aperture spherical telescope, known as FAST, is almost twice as wide as the America's Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, making it the largest in the world, if not the universe. Now, Liu Zixing one of China's top, and I could be wrong when I'm saying these names, Brett. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not sure, but I'm going to just go with it. Liu Xinjing, one of China's top researchers into alien life, described the dish as looking like something out of science fiction. But Mr. Liu, who had written a great deal about the risks of the first contact, warns the appearance of this other might be imminent and could result in our extinction. Oh, so let's get the biggest radio telescope out there to make contact, but we're probably going to lead ourselves into extinction. That's exactly the kind of political message I would expect to hear from the officials in charge, Brett.
Well, the ones who've been entertaining Trump all week, they're going, how scary could aliens be? Come on.
In one of his books, he said...
And also they go, and it looks like the thing in Joan Collins' gynecologist office. It's that big. That's how big that thing is.
Oh, ouch.
That was horrible.
In one
you
of
asked me in for comedy.
Yeah, I did. In one of his books, he said, perhaps in 10,000 years, the starry sky that humankind gazes upon will remain empty and silent. But perhaps tomorrow, we'll wake up and find an alien spaceship the size of the moon parked in orbit. Other leading experts into alien life, including astrophysicist Andrew Simeon, the director of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, also known as SETI, Research Center at Berkeley University, have also been impressed by FAST. Radio transmissions are forbidden near the dish in a bid to stop human sources interfering with any signals coming from alien sources. China's latest 5-year plan pledges to increase spending on research and development to £913 billion. That's $1.2 trillion in American money. At least 2.5% of its gross domestic product, with deep space exploration at the forefront. The plan was adopted in March of 2016, and it will see it through 2020. And this latest radio observatory is not going to be China's last, as the country reportedly plans to put one on the dark side of the moon. Wow, they are getting out there, aren't they?
You know what's really heartwarming about this? In the country of China, there are at least 1 million orphans living in really decrepit orphanages, so I'm glad they've got their priorities straight.
Well, you have to draw a line somewhere, Brett. Right?
Right.
Listen, we're trying to find out if there's...
They're using the orphans as cut bait for aliens.
Exactly. You've got to have... No, I think they're just trying to check out places to send the orphans. That's what it's all about.
No kidding.
Right? And they've got to have these little small children to put into the space shuttles to fly up there to meet the aliens. I don't know.
Yeah, because the animal rights activists get all upset when they were putting monkeys in.
Exactly. It says here,
I will say the dark side of the moon is that I mean, I'm interested in that.
Right.
I'm really interested in that. And the fact that there's probably a Motel 6 over there we just don't know about.
And an In-N-Out burger, I'm sure. It says the latest developments follow an investigation into mysterious UFO-like pieces of metal that fell from the sky, blasted into the ground near several villages in central China. The pieces created large burning craters which baffled scientists. Now, I'm no politician. I'm not a scientist, but hasn't, what's his name, dipshit Ron over in North Korea been firing off missiles? Couldn't shards of them be falling? And didn't they shoot a couple over China?
Last week there's a suspicious amount of radioactive air blowing in through Europe, and they said in the news, we think there's an accident, like maybe near the Ukraine. You know?
Oh no!
There's no accountability. So but in all this, there'll be one scientist going, because there are real stories about how we were warned off the dark side of the moon and off the moon. Period.
Yeah.
And there'll be someone to take issue with that.
Pink Floyd has told us there is no dark side of the moon. Brett, are you telling me they lied?
No, I think they dealt the best hand they had at the time.
Let's go to this one. Hawk Crossing's apartment is believed to be haunted. Various students around campus have claimed that the Hawk Crossing apartments, located just outside of Montclair State University's campus on Clove Road, are in fact haunted. Many residents have either heard eerie stories or experienced the haunted happenings firsthand. These apartments are definitely haunted, said junior business major Tiara Bratlam while widening her eyes. I notice objects move by themselves all the time. Montclair State is an old campus. The first building, College Hall, was constructed back in 1908. Many residents suspect that this is the reason why there is paranormal activity. Hawk Crossings residents of 2017 have their own stories about the strange paranormal activity that they've experienced. Students have reported hearing odd noises, flickering lights, and shaking doors. Residents also reported seeing objects move in strange shadows in the woods at nightfall. However, some students are skeptical about whether or not the claims are true. I've heard many people talk about paranormal activity in the Hawk Crossings apartments, said junior mathematics major Alenia Hull, a Hawk Crossings resident. One of my friends told me it was haunted before I moved in, but I don't really believe in ghosts. When I hear strange noises, I just assume it's from the idiot residents that live next to me. You gotta like her honesty. On the other hand,
I love a girl that's honest with her left brain working.
Exactly. Yeah. On the other hand, Hull's roommate, Raquel Cordero, a junior mathematics major, is convinced that the apartments are haunted. Cordero explained that she notices odd occurrences all the time. One time, I was sitting on the couch with my boyfriend, Cordero said. I stood up to make a cup of coffee. All of a sudden, me and my boyfriend heard a loud thump. I looked over, and the garbage can lid was swinging by itself, as if someone hit it. There's nothing creepier than a ghost that throws garbage away, Brett. I want you to know that.
Right. Well, unless he just did like a 3-point, center court hook shot with a Pabst can.
Residents are not only students who claim that Hawk Crossings is haunted, staff members also have bizarre stories. At RA training, they told us to ignore the rumors because Hawks Crossings isn't haunted. And there is nothing to worry about, said Rachel O'Neill, a junior fine arts major and resident assistant at Hawk Crossings. But after a couple of months living here, I think otherwise. The other day, I was in Hawk Crossings' office, and random objects started falling in the boss's room. I walked into her room to check if she was there, and she wasn't. It is believed that the Hawk Crossings apartments are haunted because they were built on top of can you guess? What do you think that Hawk Crossings apartments, hotel and apartments would have been built on top of?
Sacred Indian burial ground.
Ding, 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 ding. Number one answer. Top 5 answers on the board. Indian burial grounds back in the 1970s. Although there is not a lot of evidence to support the claim, there is proof that Montclair State's campus was in fact a Native American campground. So there is that. That does get intriguing.
I have played that. By the way, Dave, no kidding. I've played that college.
Have you really?
Yeah, when I lived in New York, I played every exit off the turnpike, every college, and I remember that because I was just, you'll think it's so sad, I was excited about being in Montclair. Only someone born in Alabama has that attitude, but I'm just so used to, funky, like really old-fashioned Southern schools with that Spanish moss that hangs down, and when you grow up around haunted stuff, it almost sounds funny to hear people like arguing about it,
You must have seen some amazing places along the way, but when you go to colleges like that, do they stick out to you? I mean, what are the people like at Montclair? Do you remember when you were there?
Well, I remember once, years ago, I think I was about maybe 30, and so was Rosie O'Donnell. We ran into each other at some kind of thing in New York, and we had never really had much to say to each other. Rosie and I, at the time, we're like pals now, but we were talking, and we finally agreed that college students were stupid. And this is when we were 30, so you can't imagine how stupid we think they are now. But she goes like this. She goes, yeah, I know. Like the other day, I did a joke about Josie and the Pussycats, and they didn't know who I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, Rosie, you can't gauge their IQs on cartoons that were one of the first ones to come out of the chute.
That's right. I keep feeling older.
I love playing it. It was a nice place, but then again, I wasn't visiting Hawks Crossing apartment.
That is true. Yeah, I keep feeling older. I'm watching these, you talk about Josie and the Pussycats stuff that we grew up watching on TV that nobody has a clue what the hell we're talking about. And then they tried to revamp it with a movie like 10 years ago that failed miserably. But I wish Hollywood would stop raping my TV youth and find something else to create movies about, because they've ruined every show and cartoon that I've enjoyed except for the superhero stuff. That's my only nerd outlet at this point. But it's been brutal watching them try to kind of reimagine Land of the Lost, Josie and the Pussycats. The only thing I think that was tolerable out of the last 20 years was the Scooby-Doo movies, because I thought they got a really strong cast and it was kind of a fun little deal to watch CGI Scooby in action.
Right.
But
all of a sudden, I don't know why coming to mind is Lancelot, that chimp,
Oh, God, Lancelot Link. Yes, secret agent chimp.
Yeah, Lancelot Link. Now, I like that. And, the actors, you can really keep them in line because you just go back. Do you want to go back to the testing lab? All right. Just shut up and do your little part.
and at night, he's just sitting in his little cage, rocking back and forth and putting lipstick on. Poor Lancelot.
That's right, and they have like bunnies with pink eyes going, we're going to put the lipstick on the bunny, but if you act up, tomorrow it's on you.
Oh, man. I would, life is weird. It says here for decades, students have been associating the paranormal activity with the fact that the land once belonged to Native American tribes. I don't care what anyone says, O'Neill said. Too many weird things happen in Hawk Crossing's apartment for them not to be haunted. I like how the colleges, they're just like, no, don't worry about it. Not haunted. Just move on. But if that's
in first place, Native Americans, I think, have better things to do than pester 17-year-olds from Hoboken.
You know what, though? Here was the interesting aspect, because I've always been bothered by haunted cemeteries, Brett. That bothers the hell out of me, because I don't want to feel like I'm tethered to my rotting corpse. That scares the hell out of me.
It won't happen to you, Dave.
I hope not. But here's what I found interesting with the Native Americans, and I've talked to some Native American people here in Minnesota, and I've asked them, I said, please understand, I mean, no disrespect for you, but why are your people so angry when these old burial grounds get messed with? Why haven't they gone on to the happy hunting grounds or wherever, you believe that your next level is? And a lot of them have explained to me that it isn't really the spirits of the Native Americans that are upset. It is that there are spirits, there are land and earth spirits that are in those areas that are kind of the protectors. And when you upset the balance of nature, because each one of these Native American burial grounds went through very ritualistic techniques when these burials were put in. So these are kind of sentinels, and you're pissing off the sentinels for messing with their charge, and that's what's upset, and that's what's causing
that's what Ron Strickler knows so much about that stuff. And when I visited Sedona for the first time, they were explaining at Enchantment Resorts, like it's it's like a 4 or 5 star resort, and the concierge was a full-blooded Havasupai saying, these is sacred Indian burial grounds, and we had to do a special blessing. And I go, the one that only, it's such a beautiful place. So the transaction, there is a transaction, like casinos. Because of the casinos, people can send their kids to a better school and all that.
Right.
There's just real quick, the Quinault tribe, in Washington, they have the nicest place that hasn't hurt the earth, their high roller room has quarter slots, that kind of thing. So, I think there are places you can have a happy, a happy transaction. You can build something there and it doesn't upset the sentinels.
Right. Well, yeah, it probably just depends on the way it's treated too. And if the bodies are just brushed away and buildings are set there, maybe that's it. Maybe there's some kind of ritualistic, change that needs to be. And if you're out there, you're some of our audience that have Native American ties or understanding, please email me your thoughts on this. Dave@darknessradio.com. Dave@darknessradio.com. I'll read them on a future episode, but I'm always curious. Let's do another quick story here. Though Halloween is over, things continue to be downright spooky in Byron, according to some, especially in and around the town complex building. Reports of unexplained events like items falling off shelves, lights mysteriously coming on and off, unusual sounds, and a general creepy feeling about certain areas of the building have been reported by employees working in the building over the years. But a fairly recent event caught the attention of even the most skeptical observer. The event was the spontaneous shattering of a glass display cabinet in the museum section of the building that was caught on surveillance video on a Sunday morning in late spring. The video clearly shows the glass shatter with such force that it appears to move items laying on top of the cabinet. One item in particular, a fairly lightweight antique wooden scoop, actually rises up and falls back to the cabinet. Two heavier items on top of the cabinet appear to move slightly. Curiously, no one is in the room. The cause of the event continues to puzzle many, even prompting 2 visits by a team of paranormal investigators. Kristen Belston of Moonlit Horizon is one of those investigators. Belston describes herself as an empath, or someone particularly sensitive to paranormal activity in the environment. Belston said she experienced a great deal of paranormal activity during her visits to the building, even recording some of the inexplicable sounds that to her sounded like voices. During one visit, she was accompanied by museum curator Linda Neville. Neville said, though she believes in the possibility that there are spirits lingering in the material world, she personally had not had any experience that confirmed that belief until she brought Belston to the museum. If I wasn't a believer before, I am now, said Neville. She witnessed lights turning off and on by themselves and heard what sounded like footsteps during the encounter. Belston said she felt the presence of spirits in the building, some crying out for help, others issuing warnings not to go near certain areas of the building, like an elevator or the basement. Belston said she only investigates noises or unusual events that might be paranormal in nature. She tries to record electronic voice phenomena whenever possible. She said her main purpose is to educate, not necessarily to do anything about what she uncovers. Belston said
Good deal.
Right. She says she's experienced these feelings most of her life, but her sensitivities have become more pronounced in recent years. She described it as a skill akin to putting a picture to a story. She noted that her experience in Byron was much more pronounced than others she's experienced, describing it as lots of energy. During the recording of the event, Belston said her equipment turned on and off on its own, and the batteries of the camera just drained. She said she and others attending heard doors slam, witnessed lights going on and off, and heard what sounded like whispers and chants coming from a room.
Dave, where is this? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just where is Byron?
I'll get to that as soon as we're done with this. Let me finish
I'm sorry.
That's
okay.
fine.
I'm so fascinated.
Yeah, I've got to find this too. This article is coming from the Lavelle Chronicle, so I'll have to roll up and look at it. Usually they say that at some point. That's why I was hoping to hear something in this. Let's see.
Right.
During the recording of the event, Belston said her equipment turned on and off on its own, batteries in the camera drained. She said she and others attending heard doors slammed, witnessed lights going on and off, and heard what sounded like whispers and chants. Someone kept talking about someone named Kirby in the orange shed, she said. A female voice said, "Help me," several times. Belston said she wasn't sure what the messages meant, but they were very pronounced and clear. She said she also felt water running across the floor and was advised later that water does run through a drain under the building. She said, oh, really? Water runs through drains under buildings, Brett. That's new. She said she was also warned by a voice about a presence in the basement and was later told by staff at the building they don't like to go in that area alone because it gives them creepy feelings. I just document what I feel, explained Belston. I don't give answers. Belston said it is her belief that these mysteries are not meant to be explained. She said she was confused at first by the experiences, and they worried her from the standpoint of her strong religious beliefs. For some reason, I feel more okay about this lately, she said. I feel less sinful, and I've been given the okay to feel this sort of thing. Belston presented a report and a DVD of the experience to the Byron Town Council at a recent meeting. She said, though the council as a whole didn't seem too interested in knowing, no kidding. Yeah, the council members have no interest in knowing much. At least one member of the many audience members at the meeting expressed an interest in learning about her revelations. The potential explanations are vast, from scientific to otherworldly, and though the jury appears still to be out in terms of the conclusive evidence regarding the cause of many of the unusual experience, it is almost certain that both skeptics and believers will think about possibilities for some time. Let's see if this tells me anything more.
You know what? I got the best feeling about this woman, Dave. She's humble. She's not. I mean, I don't know how she can make it in her business. Saying that, I love what she's saying. This is the kind of investigators more people need to meet.
I agree, and it's taking place in Lovell, Wyoming, or Lavelle.
In Wyoming, okay, because there's a Byron, Georgia. That's why I was curious. Okay.
All right, listen, folks, this is pretty exciting. I want to make a quick mention to you. We had Anson Williams on our show last week, and as we were talking about the alert drops, which you can find at alertdrops.com, I went in and started talking about TrueCar for our listeners as one of our sponsors is part of the show, and I've told you for almost a year now, if you're in the place that you're ready to buy a new or previously owned vehicle, TrueCar is the way to go. I've told you I'm looking for my son who's going to be 16 in June. It's coming way too soon, but this is the way the two of us have been spending some time bonding. I'm not much of a car guy. I know where to put the key. I know where to turn it and put the gas, and that's about the extent of it. But my son is educating me, and I'm educating him on using TrueCar. But Anson Williams, you use TrueCar as well?
I did. I have a large family, and I needed to get a new Sienna van. But I didn't want a new one. I wanted a used one, but I wanted it certified, and I wanted a reasonable price and all that. And I went to TrueCar, and I found my van. I got the best price. I think the best price anywhere around. So easy. I went in so prepared, and it was all, TrueCar made it, just so simple and educated me and saved me so much time. And I got a very, very, a very good deal and a great van for the kids. And saved a tremendous amount of money.
So see, over 3 million cars sold, one of them to Anson Williams from Happy Days. They've got over 13,000 dealers nationwide and over 700,000 pre-owned vehicles available right now, with an average savings of over $3,000 off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Using TrueCar, you're going to find easily the car that you want. And this is really great. They're going to also show you what other people are paying for that same car in your area, so you never have to overpay again. You will know when you step on that lot what to expect, how much the car is going to be, what all of the amenities for the car is. You've got all of that information. So once you register, you'll see that pricing on actual inventory, and it's competitive pricing offered to you only by a TrueCar certified dealer for an actual vehicle they have on their lot. It's pricing you'll see before you go to the dealership, so you'll feel more confident when you show up. You don't have to be a Hollywood celebrity to get a good deal. TrueCar puts us all on the same even playing ground, and they have an average savings. TrueCar users have an average savings of over $3,000 off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So when you're ready and you're in the market to buy a new or a previously owned vehicle, like myself or Anson Williams, visit TrueCar to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states. We're back. This is the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. I'm here with Brett Butler tonight, sitting in for Tim Dennis. We're looking at the weirdest of supernatural news this week. And I'm so glad you're here for this next story, Brett. If there was anyone besides Tim that should be here with me for this headline, I'm glad that it's you. This headline reads, Unusual encounter. Ghost hunter claims he saw two spirits having sex in the museum toilets. He saw two people having a sexual encounter in a toilet in a museum. I went to open the door to tell them to stop, and they vanished, the paranormal enthusiast said. In an unusual encounter, a ghost hunter claimed he saw two spirits having sex in a museum's toilet. Stephen Briggs from the Horncastle in England says that he had more than 100 supernatural encounters, including the two spirits having sex. The 38-year-old said that a ghost assaulted him once. The paranormal enthusiast has kept a record of his encounters and will soon describe each one of them in detail. In his revelations, he said that he was a kid when he had his first paranormal encounter. Now, if you thought somebody was in the middle of doing the stand-up boogie in a bathroom, right, would you throw open the door to yell at him, or would you maybe just try to talk to him through the door?
That's the man, Mommy. That's the man. Wait a minute. Where'd they go?
The 38-year-old said that a ghost assaulted him, so he's got that too.
Right.
I have had so many, I don't know where to start. Some are the most bizarre and amusing, but ghosts aren't always scary. The first one I can remember was when I sat on my mom's knee waiting for my dad. There was a gentleman in a coat, and he just disappeared. There was another one where I saw two people having a sexual encounter in a toilet at a museum in East Kirkby. I went to open the door to tell them to stop, and then they just vanished. I headed out to the airfield, but there was no one there. My family had been waiting for outside the toilet, and they said they hadn't seen anyone go in or out. That's what the Mirror quoted Briggs as saying. In another occasion, Briggs claimed that a ghost attacked him and ripped his pendant into two. I received a nasty shove to the heart, he said. I thought I was being attacked. The pendant I was wearing was ripped in two. I don't know what it was. No one else does either, but it must have been by something. I haven't worn jewelry since. I love that comment. I don't know what it was, but it must have been something. Really, something hits you in the chest and breaks your pendant, and it must have been something. No kidding.
Yes.
That's good. He said that sometimes people ridicule him.
Somebody asked a long time ago, when you die, can you have sex? And the answer was yes, but you just can't feel it. So.
I had an ex-wife like that. He said that sometimes people ridicule him online because of the claims and even send him hate mails. My family are very supportive, he said. I get a lot of abuse from online trolls and hate mail. I have no reason to make it up. I think people are just jealous that I'm at the center of attention. Well, he had me until that comment. I think people are just jealous.
Brother.
I was in the museum bathroom and I heard two people fornicating, so I burst into the door to tell them to knock it off. Lo and behold, they vanished before my eyes. How sad.
Oh, Mommy, they were going having at it.
How sad is it
she
that
had
as
a bit
ghost,
of a scarf tucked up in it and her head was balding?
how sad is it that even as a ghost, you still got to squirrel away into a bathroom to get it on?
Oh, my gosh.
You're in a museum. Why couldn't you be in, like, Queen Elizabeth's bed or someplace like that? If you're going to be a ghost doing it, do it for God's
Tower
sakes.
of London, right.
Right. All right, we've got another alien story here. Looking for a smoking gun, a Russian billionaire is funding an alien hunting mission to the Saturn moon. Boy, there are some people with just too damn much money, Brett.
Oh, I read about this. I love this story.
Russian tech billionaire turned ET explorer Yuri Milner says he plans to beat NASA to a mission to the Saturn moon and Enceladus in search of alien life forms. The one overarching question we are asking at our foundation is, are we alone in the universe? Said Milner. He's pledged over $200 million to the Breakthrough Initiative, an organization he founded in 2015 that observes space and develops new means of cosmic travel. Speaking at a Seattle conference, A New Space Age, Milner said his science team believes there are 3 potential locations for extraterrestrial life forms in our solar system: under the surface of Mars, Jupiter's moon Europa, and the most promising candidate, Enceladus. Located 1.27 billion miles away from Earth, Enceladus has a surface temperature below negative 200 Celsius, but it's thought to harbor a giant hot subsurface ocean that shoots up plumes of material hundreds of miles high. And we formed a little workshop around this idea. Can we design a low-cost, privately funded mission to Enceladus, which can be launched relatively soon, and that can look more thoroughly at those plumes to try to see what's going on out there, Milner outlined. He said the chemical makeup of the water vapor ejected out of the geysers on the surface could provide a smoking gun for new life below the life. He tempered expectations, though, by saying he expects to find not intelligent life, but maybe microbial life, or something more serious. Much of the knowledge about the 500-kilometer diameter Enceladus comes from the recently ended NASA Cassini mission, which provided highly detailed photographs of the moon during its flybys. But Milner, whose net worth is estimated at $3.5 billion, says he plans to send his probe, whose exact form and route have not yet been established, ahead of a more expensive mission from NASA that might take 10 years to launch. The billionaire, who trained as a physicist in Soviet Russia and currently splits his time between California and Moscow, said that if successful, the expedition would become the first ever privately funded interplanetary science mission. Fellow billionaire Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are also developing their own space ventures, though both have been more concerned with orbital and Mars travel. I'm just curious, and I'm not trying to sound all tree-huggy and douchery here, but do you think
hunger.
if we took $200 million and worried about finding life here on our planet and saving the lives that already exist, instead of admitting, I'm probably not going to find anything intelligent there, we're going to go find something microbial. Who cares? How the hell is that going to help our planet in any way, shape, or form? And maybe
when New York's going to be underwater in like 20 years, and
Right. How about this? How about if we just turned all that stupid money of going to Mars, going to Saturn, going to Uranus? How about if we just sink that money into helping homeless, feeding the people that are hungry, and start doing good things here? Maybe then the aliens would think we're worthy enough to come around and not just fly by and honk their horn.
Yes. I was going to say, because like if you did meet an alien, they'd look and go, excuse me, Fred, I got to you spent how much to get here and meet me? Come here and let me just slap you silly.
Oh, my God. It is heartbreaking. And that's so much unbelievable money that could go to end some real issues in that country. $200 million. And that's just one billionaire. How about this? Why don't you morons get together And if you want to beat NASA, why don't you work with NASA to help fund the initiative so that it doesn't take 10 years? Let's do it together in a joint effort with Elon Musk and Bezos and deal with this all together. Imagine if we came together, we could, first of all, carve much of the debt away. We could sink more of the money that we're saving by doing it as a joint venture.
Zuckerberg and Bill Gates seem like they might have this talk.
Right. Yeah.
You know what? I'm not demonizing anyone. I'm not lionizing anyone, but they seem aware that they have an ungodly amount of money, and almost, and they go, okay, it's just sinful how much we had. And Warren Buffett's another one. You know, let's just have this talk and do it. But as usual, you articulated it beautifully.
Let's dip into a couple more of these quick stories, and I've got one to wrap up with tonight. I don't know which one to end on, but this one will hit first. Has Britain's most baffling alien abduction UFO case involving police solved? Well, an exclusive article here at theexpress.co.uk. It was on a cold morning in November of 1980 that PC Alan Godfrey, now 70, came face-to-face with a UFO. He was on duty as a police officer in Todmorden, West Yorkshire, and had been sent out to locate some loose cattle. However, he ended up tracking down something he insists was more out of this world when he saw a flying saucer in Burnley Road. Mr. Godfrey lost around 15 minutes and remains convinced to this day, after undergoing regression, that he was abducted by alien occupants of the craft. At the time, he was interviewed on prime-time TV news shows, and to this day it remains the UK's best-known alien abduction account. Yet, UFO researcher Russ Callaghan, or is it Callahan? It might be Callahan. Callaghan. We'll go with Callahan. May have found a more earthly explanation for what went on. Mr. Callahan has discovered something from the history of Todmorden that there were, at least during the time of the incident, was mobile but has been overlooked by other investigators. More importantly, he said it resembles the description given by Mr. Godfrey of his flying saucer. According to black and white image of the Todmorden Futuro home with a woman stood next to it, it matches the 20 feet across dimensions given by Mr. Godfrey in his specs. Mr. Godfrey said he saw a metallic disc with a dome and a row of windows at the top. However, he also insists that moments later, as he tried to sketch it, there was a burst of light, and then he found himself driving 100 yards further up the road, with the UFO now gone. However, Mr. Callahan discovered that since 1971, there have been a UFO-inspired Futura home in Todmorden, and it was still there in 1980. The plastic-built home resembled a UFO with several large oval windows around the top half. What's more, the building was mobile and was transported around the town on the back of a truck. Mr. Callahan argued that as it would have been dark at the time of the sighting, it could have been the Futura home that had been moved on a truck that he saw and mistook it for an alien craft. Mr. Callahan said, "Alan's a great guy, and I know he believes what he said he saw. I'm not saying Alan made this up. However, he said it is plausible that the theory that further up the road the Futura building was being carried on a lorry, making it appear to be above the road. He said that is how they moved the building. Does it look like a flying saucer? The Futura buildings were small, livable houses, but the documentary makers about Alan Godfrey's abduction never remember to mention it was there at the time. It was there, and we got a photo of it. And we have not got a photo of what Alan saw in Burnley Road. Further, what is this? Futurohouse.com, that's Futuro house.com, is a website dedicated to the quirky futuristic homes, which features a section on one of Todmorden, which confirms it was moved on a lorry. Malcolm Stroud said the house was made by Waterside Plastics in its Waterside Mill in Rochdale Road, Todmorden. This is a weird-looking house. It looks like a white pill that you would swallow with these horrible oval windows. This was just like a thing in
pills like that, Dave.
Oh, I bet you did. And you saw all kinds of fun stuff.
Time too. Yes.
The Futuro house was a one-off, and I understand that they only made one. It was exhibited in Todmorden in 1971 for the town's centenary. The company went out of business in 1990. The house was exhibited outside the Abraham Omrod Medical Center, which is now closed in the town near the railway viaduct. I've also been told that it functioned as offices for Waterside Plastics for some years. He said there was a photo of it peeping between Victorian Mill buildings when it was being moved on a lorry. Mr. Callahan also considered if Mr. Godfrey just saw a bus with its lights on and got confused in the early morning darkness, that might also explain it. This was because buses ran along that route at the time, and Mr. Godfrey had initially said, "I thought I were looking at a bus." He also considered it was a council road sweeping vehicle with flashing lights, also mistaken by Mr. Godfrey for a UFO before resting on the Futura house theory. Mr. Callahan was quizzed by other ufologists about what could account for Mr. Godfrey's burst of light, missing time, and abduction claims. He pointed out that Mr. Godfrey's vivid descriptions of what went on inside the craft had only come out after he was regressed by Jenny Randles, a prominent UFO and alien abduction investigator. He said there was no mention of these prior to hypnosis. Under hypnosis, he came out with seeing alien beings with light bulb heads and a black entity. But before, in a book, he also tells you he can't say if what he said under hypnosis was real or if he made it up because he has no recollection of these things prior to hypnosis. However, some believe the mystery remains as there were 2 independent sightings of something strange that morning. A driver who was also on Burnley Road, 3 miles further out at Clivinger, told of seeing a brilliant white object at the time of Mr. Godfrey's sightings and even contacted Todmorden police. On top of this, a police patrol from nearby Halifax, searching for stolen motorbikes on Calder Valley moors, saw a brilliant blue-white glow descending into the valley towards Todmorden shortly before Mr. Godfrey experienced his close encounter. Mr. Godfrey insisted what he saw was a flying saucer, and he has recently told all in the new book, Who or What Were They?, in which he claims he was hounded from the force over the case. So the guy comes up with a pretty logical explanation until you start hearing the other cases and other people seeing lights coming out of the sky and these changes. And then not so much. What, let's see.
I love the story, and I always feel for the, and I'm trying to remember the guy in Socorro, New Mexico, the cop, one of the American stories that's a parallel to that. And his reputation actually was pretty good, but what he saw ended up being traumatic enough. He didn't get hounded off the force. It was just really hard for him, you know.
Well, I just, looking at that story, another one just popped up to me, another story that's been, quote-unquote, debunked. Britain's Roswell, UK's biggest UFO mystery, solved nearly 4 decades later. Yes. A top researcher claims to have solved the UK's most notorious UFO incident 37 years after alien hunters were left baffled. Military men at twin bases of RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge in Suffolk experienced alien activity over a number of nights and encountered a triangle-shaped craft in the woods. The 3 of them both claim they tracked a UFO on radar traveling 120 miles in just 8 seconds. The notorious incident has been likened to the Roswell crash of 1947. Astrophysicist Andrew Pike has researched the phenomena in his new book, The Rendlesham File, Britain's Roswell. He blamed the bizarre sightings on increased military activity in a phenomenon known as plasma lightning. It is an unexplained electoral phenomena caused by changes in the atmosphere, resulting in bizarre flashes of light. Well, that doesn't add up with the whole story on this. That doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't. Not the guy, you know, who saw the signs on the ship and wrote them down. No, it doesn't.
Pike also believes the sighting of a triangular craft may have been caused by military using microwave technology that heats the surface of enemy targets and emits rays. Pike writes, sightings involving unidentified aerial phenomena are regularly reported in an area known for its natural balls of light, such as Earth lights and plasma-like effects. But they were certainly unusually intense during the incident. It also appears that a general increase in activity has been occurring since the time of World War II and the development of microwave-based radar and other research in that area. Until then, every event traced was significantly less than the ones occurring since secret research moved in and started experimenting. This has been supported by similar trends in other areas, including radar and microwave communications. That does not appear to be a coincidence. At the time, 3 witnesses told of feeling static as they observed the flashing lights and hieroglyphic-like markings. Former Colonel Charles Halt, age 77, went to investigate with a squad who found a 1.5-inch impact holes, damage to the streets, and higher radiation levels in the area. Earlier this year, the National Archives opened up a section of 15 files stored by the Ministry of Defense detailing reports of aliens. Archivists dubbed them the real X-Files, but they were hit with a series of delays. Now, I just got a chance to go out there twice this year and stand in Rendlesham where the UFO was reported to have come down. And that was an exciting moment, just to get a chance to go be there. You know, you can't get anywhere near what they do in Roswell.
Exactly.
Right? But this was pretty impressive to get a chance to just stand there and be in that moment. And I really soaked it in. I pushed my fingers into the ground. I'm not an outside guy, and I just wanted to kind of absorb whatever was there. And it was pretty cool. All right, so
I love the way you put it. I'm not an outside guy.
I'm not. I'm an avid indoorsman. All right, you know what? Boy, I'm going to end with a ghost story. We'll finish up since we're kind of already in the vein of aliens. Have you heard this story? And boy, this name is going to definitely dislocate my tongue. This is the headline: Genius Russian boy can remember previous life on Mars in astounding detail. Boriska Kiplanovich has demonstrated a remarkable grasp of scientific and astronomical concepts. A genius Russian boy believes he had a previous life on Mars, and his parents believe him. The curious case of Boriska Kiplanovich, now age 20, continues to startle experts. He first came to the mainstream attention of conspiracy theorists and New Age believers in 2008 when he was the subject of a documentary, Boriska, Indigo Boy from Mars. And I'll tell you what, we'll put up a link to that documentary, which you can find on the YouTubes. I'll put that up for you so that you can find it right here with our show today. From an early age, he began telling experts about his previous life on Mars. Boris believes he lived among an alien civilization that was ravaged by war and then a nuclear catastrophe. The Martians were 7 feet tall and breathed carbon dioxide, he said. He claims he was a Martian pilot and traveled to Earth, where he was reborn in 1996. The human race has much more knowledge to unlock, and the Great Sphinx in Egypt holds the key, he says. The human life will change when the Sphinx is opened. It has an opening mechanism somewhere behind the ear. I do not remember exactly, says Boriska. The outlandish claims have sparked endless discussion on conspiracy theory websites. Boriska is said to have displayed much higher than average intelligence from a young age and was reading, writing, and speaking by only 18 months. Reading, writing, and speaking. I have kids that are 12 that still can't tie shoes that don't have Velcro.
Little funny boo-boo action going on there, Dave.
He first became famous in Russia after holding adults spellbound with his tales of his former life on Mars during a camping trip when he was age 7. So you've heard about the story. What do you make of that? I mean, do you...
Yes. I have heard about it, and it's fascinating and it's kind of beautiful in a way. But what's interesting to me is just... I think it was a couple of weeks ago they announced that they have found, they're stopping short of calling it a chamber, they have found a gigantic, about a 20-foot-long hollow place inside Khufu's pyramid that they've never found before. It's as big as the main star chamber that they found, or whatever, you know, the main one. And it's been published academically. They say it is the archaeological find of the last 75 years at least. So I sort of got goosebumps because that was the one part of the story that I didn't read about Indigo Russian boys saying that the key is in there when they just made that announcement 2 weeks ago.
That's pretty cool. That is a weird connection right there. All right, we've got one more story for Supernatural News. Then we'll come back with some ParaShare. We've got stories to share from you, our lovely listeners.
Who's your paranormal go-to menopause girl? Me.
That's right. Brett, when I think, who else can we talk about this stuff with and have some fun? Brett Butler, my guest host tonight, filling in for an ailing Tim Dennis. All right. Are you ready for this? Now, we had an interesting story earlier when a guy claimed to have watched 2 ghosts having sex in a bathroom in a museum.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard, but go ahead, yeah.
I read only the headline, so I know nothing more of this story than just the headline. So you get to learn this along with me. Health officials sent to a village to deal with organ-eating ghosts.
Yes.
It's a while since we've had any ghostly goings-on, but a particularly nasty spirit was believed to have caused the deaths of 4 men. public health officials, including a doctor and psychologists, have been dispatched to a Tambon in Nong Kong Si district of Kalasian province following rumors that a Porb ghost had killed 4 men. The rumors prompted action by Kalasian Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Pawit Sirabunarat to try to pacify frightened villagers. I kind of sound like, oh God, what the hell is his name? Steven Seagal saying Vladimir Putin.
Exactly.
Over accentuating. The rumors prompted action by a Kalasian chief. However, villagers in Mu 3, Mu 8, and Mu 11 villages. Are you, hey Brett, don't I recognize you from over there at Mu 7, or are you, part of the Mu 10 village?
That's right. We used to get your show on cable.
Villagers in Mu 3, Mu 8, and Mu 11 villages of Tambon Nongsong had already taken action by hiring a hermit to perform a superstitious rite to chase away the ghost. The villagers said they believe the ghost has eaten the internal organs of the 4 men, causing them to die.
I hate when that happens.
Oh, God, that is so intrusive. Northeastern traditional beliefs relate that the Porb ghosts are spirits that haunt their victims and gradually eat their internal organs until they die. The ghost is usually identified as a female spirit. Of course. Female spirits destroying us in the afterlife. Prasit Singh Hamat, head of Mu 3 village, said yesterday the rite calmed the villagers, and they appeared to have stopped worrying. Most returned from the rite with smiles on their faces and were very excited to find copies of Grace Under Fire in their mailboxes straight from Amazon.com. However, the head of the public health team, Dr. Parait Songkraham, a preventative medicine specialist, said officials would continue to look into the scientific causes of the deaths, and psychologists would interview the families of the 4 men. Well, it's good to know that they're still willing to look at the science.
Mama, some girl down in Louisiana is going, Mom, I'm going to be a ghost over there. You just jump up their ass and start chewing, and everybody falls down scared of you.
At this point, we have found that one of the 4 men died of leptospirosis, and another of blood pressure problems, Perriott said. Perriott added that he had also instructed team members to avoid saying anything that would ridicule or belittle the villagers' beliefs. Doctors erected tents yesterday to provide health checks for village residents under the stipulation that they would not discuss their religious beliefs. Health officials did target the houses of the 4 deceased men to check the health of other family members. Dr. Natakorn Jumpathong, head of the Kong Kane...
Now I'm just seeing John Cleese do the silly walk.
Oh, my God, yes. Dr. Natakorn Jumpathong, head of the Kong Kane Raja Grananandavrara Psychiatric Hospital, said relevant authorities would need to provide help to boost the villagers' quality of life. A widow in the village has been accused of being the ghost, he said. Well, wait a minute. If she's a widow, how is she the... This story needs more research.
This is in places where they think children can be witches and possess. I mean, it's funny, but it's not. Wow, because they'll find somebody to scapegoat about this.
We need somebody on the ground, and Brett Butler, we're sending you to the Mu district of 9, 10, and 12 to look into this case for us.
Yeah, but I don't want to go to 3. 3's scary.
No, screw 3. 3's horrifying. Stay tuned. We've got more coming your way. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. Filling in for Tim Dennis, the lovely and talented Brett Butler, and you're still stuck with me, the not-so-attractive Dave Schrader. We'll be back with more Darkness Radio and Beyond the Darkness right after this.
Beyond the Darkness.
Hey, we're back. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm Dave Schrader. My guest this evening, Brett Butler, sitting in for Tim Dennis. She's filling in some mighty big shoes, but we're having a lot of fun. Hey, do me a favor. Tomorrow's True Crime Tuesday. You don't have much time left. If you want to sign up for True Crime Tuesday, do it now. Everybody that signs up between now and my birthday, November 22nd, is immediately entered into a drawing for a 1-year paid subscription. We will draw 3 names on my 50th birthday. I know birthdays is all about getting. I'm going to be given this year. So on my birthday, I'll draw 3 names. If you're one of those lucky people, you will get a 1-year paid subscription to True Crime Tuesday. How do you do it? Just go sign up. Go directly to darknessradio.com. Click on the True Crime Tuesday banner, and you can subscribe from there. Listen, folks, it's $5 measly a month. It gets you 4 to 5 brand new 90 to 120 minute episodes available for your download pleasure, and you can listen to it any day of the week. Don't be horned in by the fact that it's a True Crime Tuesday. You can listen to it on Wednesday through Sunday, sometimes on Monday, but never on Wednesdays. But just check it out for yourself. Every week we talk about the strangest. Tomorrow, The Witch of Del Rey is our story, plus some dumb crimes and stupid criminals, hopefully with a very healthy Tim joining us. Well, at least a somewhat healthy Tim joining us on True Crime Tuesday. Go subscribe, darknessradio.com. Click on the True Crime Tuesday banner to subscribe right now between now and my birthday to be entered in for that 1-year drawing. Also, if you're listening to us on iTunes, please rate and review the show. Every time you rate and review the show, it helps our show grow so that we continue to expand. You can help the Army of Darkness get even bigger. Stop hoarding it. Stop keeping us all to yourself, damn it. Let the rest of the world know about us. All it takes is a couple of button pushes. Just push 5 stars and write down, Dave has the sexiest paranormal voice I've ever heard. Everyone should listen to the show. It's better than Cats. I want to listen again and again. Just send it and do it now. Help me out. Help us out. Tim and I love to get the accolades. We love to get the attention. And if you don't even want to write anything, just go give us 5 stars. That's all I'm asking. Not 1, not 2, not even 3. Let's just, what the hell is it going to cost you? Hit 5 stars and give it to me. That's all I'm asking. I'm putting it out to the universe. Give me 5 stars. And you can do that by rating us at the iTunes store. And if you're listening to us through the Darkness Radio app, you can also rate the app over in the Google Play Store. And we've got all kinds of cool stuff. Brett, I don't know if you know about this, but we've changed a lot on our app, which is free, by the way, in case people aren't familiar with this. On our Darkness Radio app. Now, it's updated. It's easier than ever to get around. You can see our Beyond the Darkness. You can listen to the podcast there. You can find the link directly to True Crime Tuesday, so you can sign up and subscribe. There's also a link to our Darchives, so you never have to miss another minute in the best of Paranormal Talk Radio. So you can find all of our really old shows.
And there's a mammogram button and everything.
No, there's not. What are you doing? We're part of the Dark Zone. That's launched. You can find it there. And remember, every Tuesday I'm on the Tom Bernard podcast show. Well, it's a Tom Bernard radio show, but it started as a podcast. Now it's on numerous radio stations throughout Minnesota. But you can listen in every Tuesday and be a part of my world. This week, I'm hosting the Tom Bernard Show Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So you can have 4 extra days of me. So if you're not tired enough of me listening to Beyond the Darkness, you can get even more tired of me listening to the Tom Bernard podcast. And that is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week. I'll be hosting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll be sitting in and hanging out with Tom on Tuesday, and we talk about all types of topics. And I've got a lot of cool guests slated for later on this week, so make sure you check it out. You can also find the Legends podcast. Jeff Belanger, our good friend, he puts out a brand new podcast every week. It's usually between anywhere 7 to 14 minutes long, and they look into some of the coolest, creepiest legends and dig into the history. You got to check it out. It's the Legends podcast right there. We have our Killer Deals links, so you can go in there and find everything that we talk about. All of our guests' products, books, DVDs, and Tim and I hand select some items to throw in there. Some ghost hunting equipment, T-shirts, cool swag. Go check it out. There's buttons for our Darkness events and more. You got to get the deal. If you have a Droid phone, Brett, did you fall down a flight of stairs?
No, I heard you fade away.
All of a sudden, all we heard was I thought you took a tumble.
No, I'm standing here and I heard this. I heard something else. Yeah, I heard paper around the mic.
Paranormal. Anyway, join up. Get the Darkness Radio app. It's free. It's fun. It's easy. You can find it right at the Google Play Store. So go get it right now. that's what you can do to help us out. And talking about helping things out, part of the reason I love Brett Butler in a usually unholy way is because she is not only one of the nicest human beings, funniest people on the planet, and intelligent friends that I have, but she is also one of the most caring, and she works very closely with elderly animals that have been forgotten or are given up and no longer loved, and she takes them in. She is unbelievable capacity for love for many old dogs, birds, cats, guinea pigs.
And men, Dave.
And men. But we're not asking for your help on that. She's on her own. But she, as many of you may or may not know, Brett Butler is also a sensitive. She's a medium. She has the ability to communicate with the other side, to get information, and she does readings. So you can actually get a reading. And right now she has a special going on. And this is great to know that the money that she gets from those readings, she uses to help with the animals that she takes care of, whether they need special surgeries, expensive medicines, the right kind of food. She takes care of these animals, and she uses her abilities to help that. So if you're in the market looking
right
for
now,
a
I'm
reading,
debating whether or not this cat needs something exploratory, and he's just such a pain in the butt and such an old cat, but I really want to do it for him.
Good. Well, see, and now you guys can help out.
He's got this big hunk of something.
Oh, no. Well, here's what you can do. How do people find a way to get a reading with you, Brett?
Real Brett Butler, realbrettbutler.com, and there's a tab there that says psychic readings, and you can go to PayPal. There's an hour is $100 and a half hour is $50 right now. That's a sale that we're having. It says limited time only. I don't know how long it'll go, but thank you very much for considering it. I love doing what I do, and I guess I need to put testimonials on there because I get some really nice ones, and
right.
I love doing it.
And I'll tell you what.
It's awesome. You know some people I've read. So.
Oh, yes. Well, you were great. My mom absolutely loved when she was alive. She loved the readings that you did for her, and I know that you were friends with her to the end and would keep in touch with her, and that meant more to me and my family than you'll ever know. You've also done a reading for my daughter, Jen, and she was blown away. First, when she got over her girl crush on Brett Butler and the fact that she was talking to one of her favorite celebrities from one of her favorite TV shows, she got past that. She was completely in awe. And she shared the audio with me from her reading with you, and it was very sweet, very touching. And, I mean, the connections you made were unbelievable. So I personally thank you. And if you guys are looking for a great reading, 30 minutes, only $50 right now. A full 60-minute reading, only $100. Christmas is around the corner.
And I always go way over, okay? So there, I'm just going to say it. Nobody has ever gotten only a half hour when they buy that.
Yeah, she's a bit of a talker, folks.
Stop.
And she gets a lot of information, so she'll share with you. And again, Christmas is around the corner. This is a perfect gift if you know anybody that is looking for a reading. As a matter of fact, with my fiance, her mother passed recently. This is probably going to be a gift that I'll be getting for her as well, because if there's somebody I trust with doing these type of readings, Brett Butler is definitely among that group. So get your
well, honey, you're turning 50 and I'm turning 60, and you're getting married. So I think I want to give your beautiful bride one.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Hey guys, and I'll make that mention. Listen, I want to thank everybody that's been so supportive, all so loving. I get such great emails. I was out at the Edge Life Expo this weekend. I had people coming up to the table and complimenting me on my smile, my energy, and the fact that they could tell how much in love I am. And guys, this is very exciting. I'm getting married next Saturday. So keep me in your thoughts and prayers. This is going to be a rough week. My mom passed away a year ago this Wednesday, and it's going to be a tough one. But your guys' love and support over the years has really meant a lot to me. And, and I believe that it's that kind of love and support that's helped to open up a lot of conduits and opportunities in my life. So thank you for that. And just keep us in your thoughts for a long, happy, healthy, loving relationship until both of us are rotting corpses in the ground. That's all I can ask.
That's beautifully said, Dave.
Well, I like to think so. RealBrettButler.com will have a link up right on here. If you go look right at the podcast, we have a link directly to her psychic readings page, so you can find it and subscribe. And she does book quickly, so make sure you get on that list and take advantage of it. So right now it's ParaShare aspect of the show. We like to read some of your stories, share some of your encounters, and see what we can do to get your real life encounters with us. Now, here's another option you have. You can always record your real life encounters and then email them to me with a link to like your Dropbox or your Google Play or Google Drive. You can load them in there. We will put them on and share them on the show. So if you'd like to do that, just email them to me at dave@darknessradio.com. If you can't email the entire story, you can, like I said, put it in Google Drive or Dropbox it to me, and I will upload it, and we'll share those. I know a lot of you are missing hearing the voices of some of the people telling their experiences, so we're trying to find unique ways to make that available. So make sure that you email me your stories. You can always type them and email them to me, and I'll read them. Or you can send them to us, and if it's really well done and you've done a really great recording, you never know. Tim might put a little sound effects and music behind it, and you may be featured on one of our upcoming Theater of the Mind episodes.
Those are awesome too, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's get started, and let's get started the best way I can. You've got an interesting little paranormal encounter that's recently happened to you, Brett Butler.
Yes.
What happened?
It was real. Well, do you want me to? It was kind of weird because I was the last one to know about it. Want me to run it? Tell it real quick?
Yes, please.
I was on Carrie Todd and Amy Farley have a paranormal podcast called Voices Carrie, which is what my mother says about my voice, which is a very sweet way of saying how loud I am, but that's their radio show, Voices Carrie. After I'd been on, it was the first time I'd done it back in July, after I'd been on about 10 minutes, they said people in our chat room and their producer were saying, we're getting a very steady EVP. It's the most intrusive one, and it's the most easiest to understand we've ever had. And I said, well, I can't hear it. I'm just going to continue with the interview because it's all about me. And here I've got some dead person interrupting. Well, a while into the interview, they said, who is so-and-so? And they said a name that is one of my sister's pet names. And I just figured, well, it's in Alabama. Maybe somebody knows. Then I thought about it, and I went, this is what my grandfather, my mother's father, called this sister. A couple of more names, and then they described the voice. It was my mother's father, who is psychically the most active dead person I've ever known. He will just not rest until we're all together in heaven, in the best way. He's a real homebody. And the interview, I mean, I cry at card tricks, but during the interview, they kept interrupting and saying, who's so-and-so and who's so-and-so, and they were all people in my family. He said, I love you. He said my name, and it was fantastic, and they assured me, we're recording this for you. Several people are doing it. You'll definitely have it. It won't surprise you to hear that once the show was over, that the EVPs did not make any of the recordings, not the one that they downloaded, not the one from a tape recorder that someone did. So I was just about to click it off because I didn't want to hear me without the EVPs. All of a sudden, my grandparents' house was a mile from the train station in Marietta, Georgia, and on Sunday nights, a conductor who was friends with my granddad would do a special whistle just for our family. In the summertime, we would hear it. It's one of the most memorable things I've ever heard, and 50 years ago, it's still in my memory. Right as I was about to turn the show off, that exact special train whistle signal happened on the radio, and it was the one EVP that was left for me to hear.
It's weird that you're saying that because as you're telling this, I'm getting weird audio during this, and I'm hearing these kind of whistles and tweets in the background while you're chatting. Are
you serious?
I wouldn't kid you. Are you serious? Yeah, I swear.
It's my granddaddy, David. It's my granddaddy.
Well, tell him to back off. We're trying to do a show, Butler.
Well, and I have to tell you this. I'll just say it. I've got a sister who's very, very ill, and he's just really close right now.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad that he's there and at least giving that support. Yeah, we're getting, while you're talking, I'm getting this kind of static, and all of a sudden we get this woo, this just like high-pitched tweeting and whistling noises in the background.
It's granddaddy. It's awesome.
That's cool. No, sure. Make me look like a jerk because I'm yelling at you to tell him to knock it off while we're doing a show. It's a joke, folks. She knows that. That's awesome. All right, let's dig in. Do you have a lot of paranormal things taking place around you all the time now that you've really opened yourself up?
Yes, but I'm also protected. I address that. I had some kind of icky things happen last year because I wasn't doing protection, and like the psychic equivalent of having that witch inside that eats your organs. Not quite that bad, right. But anyway, I do. I take care of that now. I got some really good advice, very simple advice about protection and discernment. Once those two things are taken care of, yes, and the psychic stuff that's happening is so thrilling to me. Spirit photography, I'm getting faces And by the way, it sounds like I'm bragging. It doesn't have to do with me, but I'm getting the most vivid faces of anyone that is blowing people away. And all I do, if I take a picture of a white wall, a face will appear on it.
Does that start to overwhelm you, though, to have that much activity? I mean, I would think, do you ever have to just say, okay, guys, leave me alone, shut it down for a while?
Oh, yeah, no, there's definitely ways. Any psychic who doesn't open and close, like it's like leaving your faucets on, you're going to run out of hot water and then some. Yeah, I have to, I think I control with my angels and my guides and control the doors on things. I don't just roll through life, unprotected.
I'm just curious, is there ever moments when you're actually frightened by the activity that takes place?
That's what happened last year. I had some stuff that was just really unsettling. Yeah.
And when you have that,
I got some help. Like when I was recording,
okay.
I was recording one of my dogs doing a trick. There were voices on the video that were not mine, and they were not pleasant voices. They were really, really ugly. And that's when, and one of them scared my dogs, and that's when I really learned how to batten down the hatches, seriously speaking. So that stuff just doesn't happen anymore. And anybody that's having that happen, there's a lot more good angels than there are the other kind, and you better call them in and use them.
When you say calling in the angels, do you have to know the angel names? Do you just call forth angels to come forward?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
We actually had a warning that was told to us that you have to be careful who you call because there were fallen angels and they are still angels.
Exactly. You have to say good angels. You have to set your intention. But that's why I said there are a lot more good angels. There are a lot more good extraterrestrials, by the way, than there are, fallen ones. One of my sisters is born-again evangelical, and she goes, a third of the angels are fallen. And I said, see, I take that as good news, because that's two-thirds of them that serve the God of light, And I love me some Jesus, too. And
I love me some Jesus.
I love me some Jesus. He can kick some butt out there, and people try and mess with his children.
You are the quintessential Southern gal. I love that about you. Now, do you ever?
By the way, I don't love the Jesus that hates anyone.
Oh, I don't think that Jesus
that's kind
exists.
of a new Jesus that's been popular lately.
His name is Jesus, and he's just a crabby ex-baker. That's not Jesus. Just ignore it. Yeah, I don't think anybody buys into mean Jesus. So yeah, just ignore that nonsense.
Well, the Roy Moore sleep with a 14-year-old when you're in your 40s, and then people comparing that to Jesus was pretty funny. I have a feeling somebody's going to get a talking to one day.
Oh yeah. Now, do you deal with voices waking you up at night, like spirit voices?
No. The
reason I ask that is being sensitive to that. And having them come to you, and dream visitations are one of the easiest ways for spirits to make themselves known. I just often wonder if they ever try to bother you, or have they tried that and you just have set the rules?
No, I had stuff happen last year that was kind of across the board unpleasant, and it was sort of like finding yourself on fire. Like you can sit there and go, well, how did this happen? When your best bet is to put the fire out immediately. Then deal with how not to have it happen later. So that's what happens. And also, and it's not just anyone, like earlier when I complimented that particular investigator, a friend of mine does spirit clearings. He calls it spirit rescue. And I want to say this, because he could do what he does without me, but I couldn't do spirit rescue. He believes in me so much that I'm actually a better psychic knowing him. I'm talking about Lon Strickler. He really is an amazing mystic, and he does his work for free. When he goes to help people, a lot of them, and they don't mean to do it, but they really stumble into some bad stuff. Like there were people who were looking for Mothman and went inside those old TNT canister places. There are people that seek out interesting cryptids or, legends of scary things, and then they find themselves pursued by attendant spirits that have no good intentions. It's even worse than Ouija board stuff. This is some hardcore stuff that people do without protecting themselves. And I'm really lucky because I I'll probably write about it one day because I learned the hard way about how to take care of myself.
I got to tell you, you'll get a kick out of this. My daughters, I'm very protective of my children when it comes to the paranormal, but I also don't believe in hiding or sheltering. That just makes taboo things even more interesting in that they want to dig in and get involved.
Does. Yes.
So I'm very cautious.
Yeah.
Right, I'm very cautious with what I let them get involved in, and we just did a delightful show together a couple weeks back. Two of my girls, Ripley and Pacey, joined me on air to talk about the paranormal, and I got such a great response from the audience. I love it. I'm not in any hurry to bring them back. I know a lot of people have asked, and I know there are some that are probably rolling their eyes. Maybe a once a year kind of thing. They'll join me to share some thoughts on the paranormal as they age and we go through this. But they found a Ouija board in my garage that I had put away. And, Dad, please, can we play with the Ouija board? Please give it in. Okay, sure. And
oh boy, Dave.
I let him bring it in, and I sat there and I watched him, and to me, it was really cute because I know there are people cringing right now. First of all, folks, I have good power of intention. I would not allow anything negative to bother my children. I wouldn't bring anything into my home.
And I think children have protection in a way that we don't understand, too.
Right. Now, and this was the board that was made for the movie. It's not one of the haunted boards that people send me. It was literally one of the ones that they made for the movie as promotional. And
right.
And it was cute because they got him in and her friend who is interested in witchcraft and not the dark stuff, but Wicca and really wants to know that stuff. She picks up the planchette and she starts looking through the little hole. And I go, honey, you realize that was just for the movie, right? Really? You don't really see ghosts through the hole? I'm like, no. And I explained to him, the planchettes were actually the real thing for the long time. The boards came much later. The planchettes were made so you could put a pen in them, and that would do automatic writing. And they were ecstatic about that. So I thought this was a great learning experience. And I go, okay. So they go, well, what do we do? I said, rest the board on your knees and just lightly put your fingers on the planchettes. So we're all sitting there, and I put my fingers on the planchette with them, and they're talking, and her friend, Kaylee, is very jumpy, very nervous, but very excited about doing this. And she circles the board 3 times and says the little chant that they do on the movie. And it was, just, we're only inviting in the good, and, we're opening
Well, you're braver than I am because I don't trust that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm watching, and again, I know how to close down the ceremony, and I did all this, but I'm sitting there. So as they're sitting there and they're trying to figure out what questions to ask, I just lower my pointer finger just over the tip of the
no.
Yes, I did, of the planchette. And they're sitting there talking, and then I give it a flick, and it spins across the board, and these girls shrieked. And then they're like, we need to use another board. This one's crazy. And I'm like, no, I was just kidding with you.
Plus, I wet my pants.
Exactly. And so I showed them a few of my other...
How old are they? How old are the girls?
They're going to be 13 here. So I showed them a few of my other collectible boards that I have, and they wanted to play with the one from Salem, which is fine. I let them play with that one for a few seconds. But what really impressed me is they were very respectful. They asked only that good spirits come forward and that they would have this communication, and nothing happened for them. And then they ended it by closing the ceremony down. And so they did everything right by setting the intention. But I just thought it was cute watching them. And I took a picture of them in the middle of playing with it to send to Bob Murch, who is the Ouija board historian and Talking Board Society chairman.
I know who he is. I wanted to mention something, and because I'm not saying it's your girls, but more poltergeist activity happens with young teenage girls and hormonal stuff. So,
I know.
It's also important for young people to set their intentions around their friends, because there's so many disturbing, sad things that happen in people's families. Like, this is not religious, but people that have no spiritual life in their homes, no parents to guard against fear, no one to tell them about God or angels. And it's really sad because they're drifting children, and those are the ones that can really fall into some scary, evil doesn't wear a T-shirt and come in the room with a pitchfork. It really is a beguiling thing that happens. So I'm glad you're teaching your daughters about positive connections, and teach them to be vigilant, with their teenage friends, because there's stuff that stuff your kids will be aware of that other kids won't tell grown-ups about.
Right. And I've talked to them about that and told them, this is, we're having a little fun with this right now. And they're like, do you think that it's evil? I'm like, no, I don't believe the Ouija board's evil. I don't think it's any more evil than turning on an audio recorder and asking questions. But what I think is, and I've told people on the air this, it's the intention in which you put forth to do these things. And if I'm asking only for the light and for people to come forward and people I love, and then I close down the account, and afterwards when they were done and they closed down their board, I did a silent prayer over the board, over them, and just said, we're all clear, we're all good, did our little spiel. So I'm very cautious on that, and I told them, don't do this, and if you ever want to play the board, just let me know you're going to play with the board.
Yeah.
And
tell them about Michael the Archangel and his band of mercy.
Actually,
But Michael, he protects children and our spiritual practices, so they're getting a double dose of it right now.
Yeah, and I think that's important for people. When you make it taboo, listen, kids, and if you think you're being a tough guy and you're hiding this from them, you're ridiculous, because we all played with Ouija boards at some point, and if our kids want to play with them, they're going to get their hands on them, and they're going to play with them. The best thing is just teach them the right thing to do. Explain to them. Right. No, I'd rather you don't play with this, but if you're going to play with it, let me watch, and I'll explain to you what's going on. And if things go bad, and what was really funny, and I know my daughter was pushing it because I could tell, but they start asking, who's here? And it starts to move to Z, and then it moves over to O. Oh,
the Zozo?
Right. And my daughter goes, no, and she takes her hands off the board, and she goes, you are not welcome here. And I was like, atta girl, first of all, shut up. But I could tell she was pushing it, trying to freak out her friend, doing that. So that kind of experience. But it's funny to kind of watch this new wave come through. But, again, and like I said, I'm sure there are a lot of people rolling their eyes. Hey, you bring up your kids your way. You probably let them have guns and do things I would never let my kids do. But I would rather, if this is going to happen,
honey.
If this is going to happen, I would rather be there watching it. Yeah.
My friends still do an impression of me. This is like back, when I first got to Hollywood, we're sitting around, we were doing a Ouija board, and I left the room. When I came back in, they said, we've got someone. And they said his name was JoJo, and he was in Hollywood in 1947. And they said, what did you do? And it spelled out kill people. And I go like this, and they do an impression of my voice like Ben Johnson and Elvis Presley together, me saying, we demand spirits from the mid-causal plane. And they said, well, you're no fun. You're shutting everything down. And I got so bossy. Honey, that planchette was flying around. This was after I'd read messages from Michael. And I became aware of like what kind of channeling stuff could happen. Looking back, considering how close to 40 I was when that happened, I'm just really lucky that I still had my children's, angels around me.
No doubt. Let's get into a couple of emails here. Hi, Dave. This happened last summer. It was about 10 at night. My cousin and I were at the kitchen table eating. I was facing the sliding glass door leading to our backyard and saw something extremely huge and dark pass by directly in front of the door really fast. I was so focused on that spot, I had enough time to get a good look at it. It definitely wasn't any shadow. I've never seen anything like it in all these years that I've lived there. I must have had a stunned expression on my face because my cousin spoke up and said, did you see that too? I asked her what she saw to confirm it wasn't just my eyes playing tricks on me. There was nothing outside that could have caused that. We tried to figure it out and couldn't. Very strange, and it hasn't reoccurred yet. What I remember about that day is I was teaching my cousin a bit about the paranormal. I also got her Zach Bagans' book as a gift that week and was reading and translating it to her because she's still learning English. She was visiting from Russia. Sometimes I wonder if the unknown observes us more than we observe it without us knowing. Once in a while, we just may catch it. And you're very right. We just may. And, hey, I'm in that book. I'm in that Zach Bagans' book. Kind of a big deal. I don't know if you know that, Brett Butler. But I've been around the paranormal world once or twice.
I think of you more than him, okay? So
well, thank you.
He got lucky. That's how I think. Okay.
Let's, okay, here we go. I emailed you back on October 28th at 4:18 a.m. regarding strange occurrences I've experienced over the years. Unfortunately, I didn't get to hear your broadcast the next morning as I overslept and didn't wake up until close to the end of your program. I'm curious if you read my email on the air and also what you think of my encounters. My mom was born in 1918 with a veil of skin over her face, and my grandparents were told by the Catholic nuns that she was blessed and would have special powers as a result. Well, Mom sure did have the ability to predict and sense things. In some ways, I feel I have the same special abilities as well. I feel very blessed to sense when good things are coming our way, and also sense my parents' presence in our home, which they built back in 1946. Despite the fact they were both deceased, yet I have noticed black figures out of the corner of my eye and had lights and radios turn on for no reason. But I believe it's their way of letting me know they're close by, which I love knowing. Our 20-year-old daughter also seems to have a gift for this, as she can actually see them. She never knew her grandpa, my dad, and was able to one night describe him to a T, down to his favorite sweater with the type of buttons on it. I was sitting in the living room rocker, and she was feeling my hair being pulled, yet there seemed to be no reason for it. Julie was sitting on the couch next to me and started laughing and told me that my dad was standing in back of me and pulling my hair, placing his finger over his mouth to keep me from telling her. She also told me about my younger brother, Dan, who died at the age of 15, whom I mentioned to you in my previous email. Is this type of phenomena passed down through families? I just know that my entire life, 62 years thus far, has been dotted with strange, unexplained happenings, but I've never been scared of what happens, as it was just an accepted part of our lives. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on this. I love Coast to Coast and all who make the show the great show that it is. Thank you for your guidance and anticipated reply. That comes from Joyce Becker. And yes, Joyce, people that are born with the veil are known to be given second sight. And have you heard about that at all, Brett?
Oh, yeah. They call it a call.
Yeah.
C-A-U, yeah, like the Scottish call it a call. Yes.
And that is, if you've been given that gift, and that's supposed to be a very powerful sign of the gift, and I would guess that only makes sense that it would be transferred down through the family. So, I don't think it's anything to worry about, especially if you already feel comfortable with it. If it's just part of your life, just accept it for what it is. A lot of your senses will give away what you're dealing with. I think oftentimes when people see shadow people out of the corner of their eyes, or sometimes in their rooms or around them, and don't have an actual sense of fear, it's because they're not there to hurt us. They're probably just our watchers, our angels, our relatives checking in on us. I wouldn't have any concern at all if I were you. I'd just say that you're probably okay in everything that you're dealing with.
It's been working for her so far, and I love the thing about her daughter. That's cute.
Yeah. Now, here is the original email she sent. I don't think I read it on this show. I think I read it on Coast, but I'll mention it right now. I'm a longtime fan of The Unknown, and when I found Coast to Coast, Art Bell was hosting, I was hooked, and I have been ever since. Thanks for all that you folks do. I do have two notable strange occurrences thus far in my life. I'll explain both as follows. My first strange encounter goes back to the time when the Waltons TV program was first airing. It must have been in the early 80s. I was in my late teens, early 20s, as my dad was alive and well and watching the show with me in our front living room. He died in 1988 from a very rare form of salivary cancer. So that's how I know the decade. It was approximately 9:30 p.m. or so, pitch black outside, when suddenly we noticed an eerie yellow glow coming from the windows on all sides of our house. My mom, who was in another room, came running out in a panic, asked us what was going on. My dad and I, confused and scared as she, approached the front door, which faces east, and once opened, we were witness to the entire outdoors being cloaked in this eerie yellow, and the maple tree in our front yard even looked much more pronounced in the color, darker than on an average evening. We opened the door, my dad stepped out on the front step and looked to the sky, but no sound or presence of anything could be seen or heard. It was extremely quiet. No sounds, natural or otherwise, could be heard. We returned inside, and after a few minutes, just as their top story about this event, hang on, sorry, I lost my line there. We returned inside, and after a few minutes, just as quickly as it had come, it left, and the darkness returned to normal. The interesting thing is we were watching our local news at 11 p.m. that night, and their top story was about this event. However, they reported that a UFO had been sighted by several people flying over Otsego Lake, a small lake not far from us, and was last seen heading east. My dad, now at 62 years old, I still hear his words spoken immediately hearing this. We were in the direct path of whatever that thing was. Needless to say, I've always been intrigued by this encounter, and despite searching the night sky over the years, have never had such an experience since. However, it definitely piqued my interest in UFOs and all things unknown. Here's the second story that was sent to me. On another note, my younger brother Danny, back in 1975, was a patient at Baby's Hospital, Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in Manhattan, as he was born in 1960 with Down syndrome and congestive heart disease. At age 15, he underwent open heart surgery, and complications arose during surgery, but amazingly, he made it through. My mom and I, who in 1918 was born with a veil, skin covering her entire face, lived with psychic abilities her entire life. We were escorted by a nurse to a recovery room to see my brother after surgery. The nurse, however, told us that the recovery room was not accessible via elevator, but instead was accessible only via a ladder. Well, we both thought that was strange, but regardless, we didn't care. We just wanted to see my little brother. We followed her up to a metal ladder adhered close to a wall, climbed up single file, and entered a room, which I can still see to this day, where we came up upon 5 beds with young children in each. 3 beds were on our left and 2 beds were on our right, and she leads us to my brother, who was asleep, but came to and ended up giving us both a kiss in return. The nurse then approached us and gently led us back down the ladder. When we told our family later about climbing a ladder, they told us that that was impossible. My sister, an RN, was totally in denial about what we were sharing. So, at our earliest opportunity, we asked the doctor about their unconventional recovery room, and he seemed shocked and told us they do not have such a room. Mom and I often spoke of our experience and reassured each other that despite others' thoughts on the subject, that we had done so. Mom passed away at home at the age of 90 in 2009. My brother Dan, my best buddy, you see, died in 1975 at age 15, after our visit and exchange of kisses. When I hear the song Stairway to Heaven, I immediately go back to our experience and wonder if that was God's way of gently preparing us for his passing, as my mom and I think he did just that. Wow, that's powerful.
I have to tell you something. My cousin, Jeannie, was 3 weeks older than I am, and we did everything growing up together as children. She had Down syndrome and just passed away last week.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Brett.
And this feels like such a beautiful gift from Spirit hearing this. I was her favorite cousin, and I did not deserve that title, by the way. Thank you. She is fine. She's fine,
right.
You know. I've seen over there. I know she's fine. I just loved her so much, and I'm so grateful that you read this tonight. What a fantastic thing to happen. Thank you.
Let me ask you something, Brett, and if it's too sensitive to answer, I understand, and if you'd like
Sure,
to pass
go
on
ahead.
it, that's free.
Sure.
I heard an interesting mention this weekend when I was at the Holistic Expo, and we were talking about alien hybrids, human-alien human hybrids. And it was brought to my attention that there is a belief that children that are born with Down syndrome are in fact genetic mutations of this alien strain, and that in some cases that is part of what was going on during the hybridization. And some people it takes, some people it does not, but that in most cases with the Down syndrome children, that they believe that this was part of the hybridization project. Now, the reason I mention that is her first story was about this alien craft visiting them.
Uh-huh.
In the second story, they're redirected to climb up this metal ladder into a room to say goodbye.
Exactly.
So I'm just curious, could this have been more
more
of an alien encounter? Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I blurted out to a client, and I just went, I think people have been confusing angels and aliens for thousands of years. So what some people might call hybridization, I think of as touched by an angel. I have no idea, but I do know I do believe that there are some very powerful, benevolent, biological extraterrestrials working to help us. And by that, I don't mean rescue us or anything. I wouldn't dare venture on a topic that complex and controversial or anything like that. But I do believe this about people with Down syndrome. I'm not saying they're, like perfect people, but they really are an angelic kind of, they're just such special people. They're so kind and they're so in the moment. And everybody who's known someone with Down syndrome just knows what sweetness is there,
I agree.
So that's something like,
but isn't that story
angelic.
Strange? Isn't that story strange, though, that
really
she's brought up this metallic ladder?
True. it rang completely true. As you started to tell it, I just kept thinking the latter, it's not really there. It's not really there. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And what's funny to me is that she's 62. Now, I thought I was slow because I didn't realize I was a medium until I was turning 50, which is almost 10 years ago. She's just been on this wave her whole life and is just starting to pay attention to it. Now,
right.
I hope she doesn't borrow trouble by saying, is things okay? Is this all right? Everything is fine, and bring that intention in, because that's, like that prayer said, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God, the power of God, all that is with us. And yeah, definitely it runs through her family. And her dad is, I love her dad.
You pick up on that energy even when when I'm reading an email like that.
On him, and he's really with her. And that thing about the yellow light and her dad believing and knowing that happened was something. And by the way, when you told that story earlier about that policeman in England who had the UFO encounter,
mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, but I think that this is just what I think. Okay, it's crazy, whatever. I think the UFO knew that fake thing was there and came to see it.
Oh, that's an interesting aspect to think about. Sure. That is pretty interesting. Yeah, what if they're watching us hoaxing each other and they're coming by to watch and see what's going on?
Well, I think 40 years ago, there was a less sophisticated, more invasive kind of ET coming to Earth and bothering people, and they had to sort of get spanked and put to the back of the class, is what I've heard. I know that sounds crazy, but there's just a higher vibratory realm that's taken over, like those grays that used to take people and bother them. And I'm
right.
not saying that, completely quit, but they've really been disciplined about it. Like, that's just not cool what they were doing.
Remember, check out realbrettbutler.com. You can click on the psychic readings button and you can go get a 30-minute or a 60-minute reading. $50 or $100 makes a great gift item for the holidays coming up as well. And she is one of the best. I get fantastic responses from people around the world that have had readings. And remember, all the money that she raises, she uses to help with the elderly animals that she takes care of. We got a couple more emails. We'll wrap up for the evening. Hey, Dave, I just heard you interview with Bill Engvall on his show. I'll be finding your podcast, add to my growing list. A little background on me. My name is Alana. I live in Wisconsin, and all my life I've had a sixth sense ability, being able to feel, hear, and sometimes see spirits. Given I was born about 3.5 months early, might have something to do with this. Where do I start with numerous stories? I could go on for days with the happenings over the years. One that really stands out in my mind is the following. My husband is big into history, genealogy, so sometimes he'd go grave rubbings with rice paper and art coal to make out what the really old ones say, the dates, names, etc., that are now unreadable due to the weathering and age. This one particular time, I was just wandering around the cemetery waiting for him, all the while hearing the white noise I often do in my head, like a radio with static, not fully tuned. As the noise grows louder, I get to the children's section of the cemetery, and I can hear clear as day, I am you, you are me, over and over. I didn't understand it. I kept wandering. All of a sudden, right in front of the grave of a baby girl born and died the same day, the date, the exact month, day, and year I was born. If gravestones had time of death on them, I'm quite certain her death and my birth time would match as well. I get chills to this day recalling the story. One I will never forget. Keep up the amazing work. And that comes from Alana. Thank you, Alana. What a wild story.
I have chills all over, Dave. Whoa.
When I was in Germany last year, we were in this beautiful old cemetery, and I'm like, I've been walking through this cemetery for 40 minutes. I haven't seen one Schrader out here. I've seen Alzheimer's. The guy that the doctor that was involved in it, I saw their graves, nothing. And
right.
Just as I'm like, well, we got to head out of here. I round the corner and there's this whole gaggle of Schrader headstones everywhere.
Whoa.
And I'm like, all right. Maybe I shouldn't be looking that closely.
Is that what a plural of Schraders is, by the way? A gaggle of Schraders?
Yes, a gaggle of Schrader. Yes. On September 11th, 2001, I worked for the New York City Transit Authority as a rapid transit supervisor at a train storage facility. My tour ended at 10 p.m. My wife also worked for the NYCTA at a different location. Her tour cleared up at 11 p.m., which gave me about an hour to kill before picking her up to go home. I decided to take a 45-minute power nap, so I drove my SUV outside of the facility and parked under a streetlight for about 200 feet from the guard shack. I set my alarm clock for 45 minutes, reclined the driver's seat, and dozed off. At 10:34, I unexpectedly awoke to find a woman sitting in the front passenger seat. I said to her, what are you doing in my car? She did not respond or turn her head to look at me. She just stared straight ahead. I hit the side of the chair to get her attention and said, "Hey, get out of my car!" I started to sit up in my chair, and as I did, I noticed a man and another woman standing behind him at my passenger side rear door. I proceed to open my door and step outside of the car, and I see another man standing at the driver's side rear door. That's when I noticed they were dressed in business attire, and they were covered in heavy white powder and grayish soot. The woman in the car said, "Could you take us to Queens, to the Jamaica Hub? Please, we're trying to get home. The Jamaica Hub is transfer point on the Long Island Railroad where commuters who work in Manhattan and other boroughs transfer to trains going to the suburbs of Long Island."
Oh, my God.
I bent down to look into the car, and she was gone. I stood back up, and the other people had disappeared. There I was standing outside of my car. A few seconds passed and a car passed by. This was not a dream. And that's from Darren from Pennsylvania. So he had that dream.
That was 9/11.
Oh, man. How powerful.
That was 9/11.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Good story, Dave. Wow.
Let's see if I've got another short one here, and we'll wrap up for the evening. Hey, my name is
But
Kate.
Dave, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, Uncle Dave. I'm going to be very afraid.
Yeah, you and me both. Hey, my name is Kea. That story just gave me the heebie-jeebies. Seriously. Could you imagine you wake up in your car surrounded by people covered in white powder and they just want to go home? And that tragedy
of 9/11. Well, it sounds like a Coke party a long time ago, but yeah. I got
it. I forget. You lived a different life than I did.
What?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My name is Kaya. I've witnessed paranormal, ghosts, and things moving, including my body, my whole life. I used to suffer from sleep paralysis every night at a point during my childhood. As an adult, age 32, I continue to encounter such events, but with less frequency. I believe I have communicated with a few different spirits throughout time. I also have witnessed a UFO close range at Mount Shasta, California. My buddy and I were camping.
Whoa.
That day on the mountain was accompanied by continuous vibrations in the air, and when that stopped, we both laid down in the tent. That's when the ground began vibrating. These two events were similar to the base in the car driving past your house. Moments later, I saw a bright light shine through the tree line and through our tent. I thought it was the moon. It was, in fact, a large, glowing, sparkling orb of ruby and red spectrums. It moved around slightly, becoming brighter, then dimmer. It seemed to have a metal shimmer under all that light. It put off a great halo, kind of how a full moon does. We watched it for a few hours before it just faded into nothing. My childhood and adult ghost stories vary considerably. I can go into detail about that at another time. After my father died, I also had 3 different dreams of him, all of which seemingly communicating with him and following a storyline of events. 3 different dreams, like 3 different chapter events in a book. Lastly, my friend recently woke up to what she believes to be an alien being watching her from her doorway. She woke straight up and made eye contact. As soon as she said, "Mom, is that you?" the being looked away from her and then looked back, making eye contact again. She went into great detail about what the little guy was wearing and the facial structure, position, figure, etc. If any of this interests you, I'd be happy to chat, and that comes from Kaya Hartley. Well, of course, Kaya. Send me more of your damn stories. How dare you be a little story tease. Well, Brett, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Thank you for being here this evening. Thanks for filling in for Tim. I know he appreciates it as much as I do.
I love both of you. Tim, get better anytime, Dave. I love you. We'll talk. I'll send you an email, but thank you for having me on. I love darkness. I love Beyond the Darkness, and Just thanks so much.
RealBrettButler.com. We have a link to her psychic page right on our podcast today, so you can find it. You can find her
thank you, because actually I can get surgery on this cat if I get enough people. Thank you very much, seriously.
That'll be great. So help out with the cats, the dogs, the birds, the hamsters, the slightly humpback gerbil she's got. All of them need her help. And thank you again, Brett Butler. We'll be back tomorrow. We've got more strange supernatural tales to tell and True Crime Tuesday. Remember, you can subscribe to that by going to darknessradio.com. Click on the True Crime Tuesday banner and subscribe now to be entered into a drawing, which will be happening on November 22nd. For 3 lucky listeners, will win a 1-year paid subscription to True Crime Tuesday. That's it for this day. We'll be back again tomorrow with more of the best in paranormal talk radio here on Beyond the Darkness.